Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. What separates the wealthy from the broke? What separates the healthy from the sick? What separates the filled from the frustrated? It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not who your parents are, where you grew up, or what school you went to. Discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. That single sentence carries the weight of transformation because every person has desire, but not every person walks in destiny. Desire is the spark. It's the vision, the goal, the dream that lives inside your spirit. It's what wakes you up at night and pulls at your heart. But desire alone is not enough. The world is filled with people who want more, dream bigger, and hope harder. But hope without habits is hollow. The bridge that carries you from wishing to walking, from dreaming to doing, from intention to manifestation. That bridge is discipline. Desire is emotional. Discipline is structural. Emotion may get you started, but structure is what sustains you. That's why so many people start strong and finish weak. They get excited about the outcome, but refuse to submit to the process. Discipline is the willingness to do what must be done when it must be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. It's not about motivation, it's about commitment. You don't need motivation to build a bridge. You need tools, labor, consistency, and time. The same is true with your life. If you want to walk in your calling, your assignment, your purpose, discipline is non-negotiable. Everything you want is on the other side of effort. But the key isn't just effort in spurts. It's sustained effort, aligned effort, intentional effort, day in and day out. Discipline takes the chaos of your passions and gives them direction. Desire says, I want to be healthy. Discipline says, I'll wake up early and train whether I feel like it or not. Desire says, I want to be wealthy. Discipline says, I'll manage my money, control my spending, and invest consistently. Desire says, I want to lead. Discipline says, I'll show up prepared, humble, and ready to serve. The distance between those statements is where most people fall short. Not because they don't have the ability, but because they haven't built the bridge. That bridge isn't glamorous. It's made of repetition, sacrifice, and uncomfortable choices. It's built when nobody is watching. It's reinforced every time you do what's right instead of what's easy. Most people want the outcome without the obedience. They want the platform without the process. But destiny doesn't respond to fantasy. It responds to discipline. You don't stumble into your purpose. You build toward it brick by brick, choice by choice, hour by hour. There will always be a gap between where you are and where you want to be. Discipline is how you cross it. Discipline says, I don't negotiate with my goals. Discipline doesn't need applause because it's not external validation that builds your bridge. It's internal standards. That's why some people stay stucking. They confuse desire with discipline. They think dreaming big is enough, but dreaming big without doing small daily things leads to disappointment. Desire may write the vision, but discipline walks it out. Discipline is the quiet builder. It doesn't need fireworks. It just needs your yes every single day. That bridge you're trying to build, it won't come together because of a once-in-a-while push. It will come together because of an all-the-time mindset. Discipline is what you do when inspiration is gone, when you're tired, when it's raining, when no one is clapping. Because when you live with discipline, you don't just wait for destiny. You walk into it. Master your mind before you master your life. Everything you experience externally starts internally. Your reality is shaped by your thinking. Your outcomes are determined by your patterns of thought, success, wealth, health, relationships, leadership. None of it can be fully realized or sustained if your mind is undisciplined, distracted, or dysfunctional. The battle is always in the mind first. If you lose there, you lose everywhere else. But if you win there, you can win anywhere. The mind is not just a container for information. It's the command center for action, belief, and direction. You cannot build an extraordinary life with a mind that's filled with fear, doubt, and confusion. Most people try to fix their life by changing their circumstances. They change jobs, cities, routines, even relationships, thinking that external shifts will bring peace or progress. But until the mind is aligned with truth, discipline, and clarity, nothing else will stick. You can change your environment, but if you don't change your internal programming, you'll recreate the same problems in new settings, the same habits, the same excuses, the same limitations. That's why real transformation starts with mental mastery. That must be led, not left on autopilot. It must be trained, not indulged. You can't afford to let your thoughts wander aimlessly and expect focused results. Mental mastery means choosing your thoughts the same way a leader chooses their strategy. You must be intentional, not emotional. Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it belongs there. Not every idea deserves your energy. Not every fear deserves your attention. Mastery begins when you take responsibility for what will allow to grow in your mental garden. You pull weeds of negativity. You plant seeds of discipline. You water ideas that align with your values. And you stay alert because the mind is always under pressure from distractions, lies, and limiting beliefs. If you let your guard down, your thinking will default to comfort and convenience. Mastering your mind requires repetition. You don't renew your thinking once. You do it daily. You guard your input. You monitor your self-talk. You challenge narratives that don't serve your purpose. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about refusing to entertain thoughts that keep you from showing up in your full potential. Fear, worry, procrastination, those are enemies. And they're only powerful when you give them your agreement. Mental discipline means confronting them and deciding that you will not be ruled by them. You don't need more motivation. You need more mental order. Your life is following your dominant thoughts. If you think like a victim, you'll act like a victim. If you think like a champion, you'll show up like one. You attract what you believe you deserve as it helps us. That's why mindset is not just a personal development idea. It's the foundation for everything you build. You can't operate at a high level while thinking at a low level, as it helps us. You can't live a life of freedom while thinking like someone who's stuck. And you cannot walk in confidence while feeding thoughts of inadequacy. Your mind is either your greatest asset or your greatest liability. If you don't master it, it will master you. If you don't discipline it, it will distract you. If you don't renew it, it will recycle your past and convince you it's your future. Mastering your mind means breaking out of survival thinking and stepping into strategy thinking. It means training your brain to serve your goals, not sabotage them. It means taking charge of your internal world so your external world has no choice but to follow. Your habits reveal your true priorities. It doesn't matter what you say you value. What matters is what you consistently do. Habits are the honest proof of what matters most to you. They are the reflection of your discipline, your thinking, and your decisions repeated over time. Talk is cheap, but patterns are loud. You can say health is important to you, but if your daily routine is filled with junk food and skipped workouts, your habits have already told the truth. You can say financial freedom is a goal, but if you constantly overspend and avoid budgeting, the evidence says otherwise. Habits don't lie. They expose what you actually believe and what you're truly committed to. People often convince themselves that they're just busy, that they just haven't had time. That life is just chaotic right now. But the truth is, we all make time for what we prioritize. Every person gets 24 hours. What you do with yours is a statement of your values. If you say faith, growth, or leadership matters, yet your habits don't align with those declarations, it's not the calendar that's the problem. It's your commitment. The gap between what we say and what we do is filled with excuses. But your future is built on execution, not explanation. Your habits are either reinforcing your potential or sabotaging your progress. Habits create momentum, and momentum compounds. Every small action you take consistently becomes part of your identity. If you show up daily with disciplined focus and purpose, that becomes your standard. Over time, those habits stack. They build confidence. They build strength. They build trust with yourself. On the other hand, when your habits are actively disorganized or driven by emotion, they also shape you. But they shape you into someone who can't rely on themselves, who doubts their progress, who lives in cycles instead of breakthroughs. What you do daily determines what you become permanently. As it helps us, the power of habits is that they don't require constant thought once established. That's why they're dangerous when misaligned. A negative habit can drive your life without even realizing it. That's why awareness is essential. You need to evaluate your patterns without justification. Look at your morning. Look at your work ethic. Look at your screen time. Look at your communication. Those are the places where your true priorities show up, not in your dreams or your declarations, but in your repetitions. The future doesn't respond to your intentions. It responds to your systems. Creating aligned habits requires clarity and consistency. You must know what you're building toward, and you must decide what actions move you toward that goal every day. It's not about dramatic change overnight, as it helps us. It's about doing the right things long enough for them to take root and bear fruit. Habits are not built on intensity. They are built on repetition. That means the small things matter. 5 minutes of focused action done every day will always outperform an hour of hustle done once a month. The people who rise to the top in any field are not always the most talented. Often, they are the most disciplined, as it helps us. They respect their habits more than their feelings. Your habits are not only shaping your results, they're shaping your mindset. When you show up consistently, even when it's inconvenient, you build mental strength. You prove to yourself that your word is bond. That builds confidence. And confidence built on consistency is unshakable. It's not hype. It's history with yourself. You've seen yourself do the work. That's why habits matter more than hype or hope. They are the system that carries your values into action, your dreams into reality, and your goals into lifestyle. Emotions are indicators, not dictators. They were never meant to be the drivers of your life. They are signals, not commands. They give you information, but they are not instructions. Most people don't know the difference. They feel fear and stop. They feel tired and quit. They feel angry and lash out. They feel discouraged and give up. But those feelings, while real, are not always reliable. If you allow emotions to dictate your actions, you will live a life of inconsistency, regret, and missed potential. Emotions fluctuate, but purpose must stay fixed. The most powerful people are not the ones who feel the least. They are the ones who know what to do regardless of how they feel. Living by emotion is easy. It requires no discipline, no vision, and no self-control. But it will cost you everything. Emotions are part of the human experience, but they should not lead the experience. as it helps us. You must develop the maturity to acknowledge what you feel without letting it define what you do. Just because you feel stuck doesn't mean you are. Just because you feel insecure doesn't mean you lack value. Just because you feel overwhelmed doesn't mean you're incapable. Emotion may be loud, but your decisions must be louder. You are responsible for what you do, not just what you feel. People who are led by emotion often find themselves trapped in cycles. They start something strong, then stop the moment it gets uncomfortable. They make bold declarations, then retract them when anxiety kicks in. They burn bridges out of anger, then regret it in silence. If your feelings are in charge, your life will be unstable. One day you're up, one day you're down. One day you believe, the next day you doubt. That's not strength. That's surrendering your power to your emotions. Strength is choosing stability when your heart is racing. A strength is choosing action when your motivation is gone. Strength is choosing the next right step even when your mind is filled with fear. Emotional discipline doesn't mean you suppress or ignore what you feel. It means you understand the role emotions play. They are data, not direction. They are feedback, not the foundation. Let emotion inform your awareness, but let wisdom lead your behavior. For example, fear might be telling you there's risk ahead, but courage reminds you that every worthwhile pursuit involves risk. As it helps us, anger might be telling you that something isn't right, but discipline reminds you that reckless reactions only multiply damage. Sadness might be telling you to slow down, but strategy reminds you not to stop moving forward. You need both emotional awareness and emotional authority. The danger comes when people treat feelings as facts. You feel unqualified, so you don't apply. You feel lonely, so you settle. You feel misunderstood, so you isolate. Feelings are powerful, but they are not permanent. They can shift with a conversation, with rest, with clarity, with time. If you always act in alignment with temporary emotion, you forfeit long-term growth. Purpose demands that you move even when the feelings don't match. Purpose says you show up because you said you would, not because you feel like it. One of the most powerful things you can learn is to pause between emotion and action. That space is where wisdom lies. That's where maturity develops. That's where your future is protected. You might feel an impulse to quit, to lash out, to run, to hide, but you don't have to act on that impulse. You can recognize the feeling, sit with it, process it, and still make a decision that aligns with your values and vision. That kind of emotional discipline is rare, but it is essential for lasting impact. Emotional intelligence is not just about recognizing how you feel, but choosing how you respond. Reaction is instinct. Response is leadership. Consistency creates unstoppable momentum. Momentum is not created by intensity, it is created by repetition. It is not about doing something massive one time. It is about doing something meaningful every time. Small, disciplined actions done daily will always outperform big, dramatic actions done occasionally. Consistency is the foundation that allows growth to compound. It's the steady push that builds pressure over time until something breaks through. People often underestimate the power of consistency because it lacks glamour. It's not flashy, it's not loud, and it doesn't always get attention. But in the long run, it builds results that are undeniable. When you are consistent, you build trust with yourself. Every time you show up, even when it's difficult, even when no one is watching, you reinforce the belief that you can count on yourself. That self-trust becomes the fuel for confidence. Confidence doesn't come from hype or affirmations alone. It comes from knowing you've put in the work, that you've done what needed to be done repeatedly. You don't need to guess if you're growing. You can see it in the routine as it helps us. In the discipline, in the way you keep showing up, that creates momentum, and momentum makes hard things easier over time. Consistency is the silent multiplier. When you're consistent, even the smallest action can produce massive results over time. A few pages a day becomes a library. A few dollars a week becomes financial stability. A few workouts a week becomes health and strength. A few uncomfortable conversations become deeper relationships. It's not about speed, it's about staying in motion. Inconsistency kills progress because it resets the process. When you start and stop repeatedly, you never give your momentum a chance to build. You keep losing ground, restarting and relearning instead of compounding. Momentum works like a flywheel. At first, the effort feels heavy. It takes energy just to get moving. You may not see results immediately. That's where most people give up. But if you keep pushing, the wheel starts to turn. Slowly at first, then faster, and then with less effort. Suddenly, the process that once felt like resistance becomes rhythm. That's the reward of consistency. It's not just about doing the work. It's about becoming someone for whom the work is normal, automatic, and expected. You stop needing to force it because it's who you are now. People often wait for motivation before they act, but motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Consistency doesn't rely on feelings. It relies on commitment as it helps us. You don't brush your teeth because you're motivated. You do it because it's a non-negotiable. That's how your priorities should be treated. When something matters deeply, it becomes part of your identity, not just an event on your calendar. You don't do it when you feel like it. You do it because it defines who you are becoming. That level of consistency produces a momentum that most people never experience because they're always stopping, quitting, and restarting. The key to consistency is not perfection. It's persistence. You will have off days. You will make mistakes. But consistency means you return quickly. You don't let failure become your rhythm. You reset, refocus, and resume. The speed at which you recover determines how strong your momentum becomes. Every time you bounce back faster, you build resilience. That resilience becomes part of your momentum, and over time, you develop the ability to move forward through almost anything. The more consistent you are, the more unshakable you become. You don't need to rush, you just need to refuse to stop. Obedience to your own standards is non-negotiable. When you decide to live by a set of principles, those principles must become the law you live by, not suggestions you entertain when convenient. Your standards are not just guidelines. They are the boundaries that protect your purpose, the framework that shapes your progress, and the structure that defines your identity. If you keep compromising your own standards, you destroy your integrity. And without integrity, consistency becomes impossible. You can't build anything lasting when you constantly lower the bar to accommodate how you feel in the moment. The moment you start negotiating with your standards is the moment you start weakening your future. Obedience is a word that makes some people uncomfortable, but it's the foundation of discipline. It means surrendering your comfort for your commitment. It means doing what needs to be done regardless of the mood you're in. Your standards aren't just about performance. They are about identity. When you set a standard, you declare who you are. When you obey that standard, you reinforce that declaration. Every act of obedience strengthens your belief in yourself, while every compromise chips away at it. You either live in alignment or you live in conflict. There is no middle ground. The most dangerous thing is not breaking someone else's rules. It's breaking your own. Because when you do that, as it helps us, You train yourself not to trust your own word. You stop believing in your own goals. You stop respecting your own voice. That inner disconnect leads to self-doubt, frustration, and inconsistency. You start making decisions based on pressure instead of principle. But when your standards are non-negotiable, you remove the drama. You take the emotion out of the decision making. You already know the answer because your standard decided for you. You don't debate if you're going to show up. You show up. You don't ask if you feel like doing the work. You do the work. That level of obedience creates focus, and focus creates power. Obedience to your standards is not about being rigid or robotic. It's about honoring what you said matters most. It's about living in a way that reflects your values, not your impulses. It helps us. Every time you obey your standards, you close the gap between the person you are and the person you're becoming. You build momentum, you build character, and you build trust. Obedience is a test of integrity. It's easy to keep promises when others are watching. It's harder when you're alone, when no one will notice if you slip. But that's when it counts the most. Your private obedience determines your public results. When your standards are clear, decision-making becomes simple. You stop chasing every new opportunity or trend. You filter everything through your values. Does this align with who I am? Does this help me grow? Does this protect what matters most? That kind of clarity is powerful. It creates boundaries that protect your energy and direction. It eliminates distractions because anything beneath your standard becomes irrelevant. You're not being harsh, you're being focused. You're not being arrogant. You're not being obedient to your assignment. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they treat their standards like suggestions. They act on how they feel instead of what they've decided. But success doesn't belong to the most emotional. It belongs to the most obedient. The ones who keep showing up. The ones who refuse to lower the bar. The ones who honor their process even when no one is watching. Obedience is not weakness. It is strength under control. It is discipline in action. It is the refusal to betray your future for the sake of your present mood. When your standards become law, your life becomes ordered. And when your life is ordered, your results are consistent.